And welcome back to the Hot Lap. Welcome back to not quite F1 2024, but we are talking Formula 1 2024 going into the new season. It has already begun, as you can see here. Mercedes and Toto Wolff under huge pressure, according to Hamilton. Also, Mercedes are going to change every component on their car. Bit of a risk potentially, but I guess you need to take those risks if you're going to beat one of the most dominant teams and dominant cars of all time. Also, Norris saying McLaren are on track for 2024. What does that mean? And Perez on 2024 essentially saying it's his qualifying that has let him down this year, and that's something he really needs to work on. And last but not least, can Red Bull be caught? Well, Stefano Domenicali does have his opinions. We will get into that. This is the Hot Lap. Welcome to F1 2024. Not quite, as I said, we're still in November, just about November the 29th, as of recording this. So let's get into our first story on motorsport.com. It says Hamilton has basically saying that Wolff and Mercedes are under huge pressure to deliver in F1 2024. And Mercedes boss Toto Wolff and his team, it says, are under a huge amount of pressure to deliver. I mean, this year has been, let's be fair, quite a disappointment. Some might even say more disappointing than 2022. Now, off the back of a winless campaign for the German manufacturer, the Brackley-based squad, it's pinning its hopes on next year, the W15 for 2024. However, the seven-time champion, Lewis Hamilton, he suggested that there is little room for manoeuvre in Mercedes getting it wrong. Getting it wrong also for a third time in this new rules. Now, in an interview with select media, including motorsport.com, Hamilton said that everyone at his team was feeling it ahead of what is a critical winter, ensuring its 2024 car is competitive. And he asked how much pressure his team boss, Toto Wolff, was under. Hamilton said a huge amount for sure. Not just Toto, but globally, all of us, everyone back at the factory, a huge amount of pressure on them. Ultimately, as a boss like Toto, he said, you have to start leaning on people more rather than backing off on them. And how you do that is not easy, as people break at a certain point. So how do you do it in a constructive way, in a way that's inspiring to continue? For me, hopefully some of the race results and drives that I've been able to put in, I like to think that sparks inspiration for the guys, like, oh, we're almost there, and that trickles down through the whole system. Now, Hamilton, though, he's acknowledged that Mercedes struggled to find direction in their car over these past 2 years, and that's definitely so. I mean, how many times have we seen that Mercedes car do really good at one weekend? Okay, they got caught with their DQ in America, but Mexico was fairly positive one weekend. Qatar looked quite positive, and then came Brazil. They were like absolutely nowhere. So Hamilton said we didn't have a North Star necessarily at the beginning of the year, knowing exactly where we needed to work towards, he said. And it's been kind of zigzag, like trying to frickin' get to where we need to be. Every now and then, something positive happens. You're like, okay, that's it. And then it shifts. So the goalposts are always moving, which is typical. However, off the track at this year's infrastructure changes included the return of technical director James Allison to frontline duties and a switch of car concept. Hamilton is said to be a lot more encouraged now. So we all want Mercedes to do well. We want Red Bull to have a challenger. I think everyone wants. I think even a lot of Verstappen fans would much rather him win a close contest because it kind of means more, doesn't it? We all want a competitive 2024. Will we get one? Let's see. So next up, also on Mercedes, this is from SportsIllustrated.com, and now Mercedes are going to change every component on the W14 for 2024. You get some years where there's not too much rule change, where the components kind of like cross over, and it's almost like a evolution rather than revolution concept. Now, as we know, Mercedes have enjoyed a challenging 2023 season, and they're going to be trying, as Hamilton has alluded to, everything possible to get this W15 car up to scratch. And the other reason why the W15 next year's car is going to be so important is because that's going to lay the foundation for 2025, because a lot of the teams will be looking towards 2026 and those new rules. Now, despite narrowly finishing P2 in that Constructors' Championship, only 3 points ahead of Ferrari, it was clear that this Mercedes car was no match for Red Bull's dominance, the article says. Now, the source of the problem was rooted to a wrong direction pertaining to this aerodynamic problem. Everyone kind of like blames the zero pod design. Now, the team introduced several quite good upgrades packages from the Monaco Grand Prix onwards, meant to act as corrections, but it didn't really work as well as everyone hoped. Though Mercedes, they've adopted a new design approach for their 2024 car, and team principal Toto Wolff explained the extent of changes being made, and that includes changing almost every component on their car. Now, we told the media, we are changing the concept. We are completely moving away from how we laid out the chassis, the weight distribution, the airflow. I mean, literally, there's almost every component that's being changed, because only by doing that, I think we have a chance. We could get it wrong also. So between not gaining what we expect to catching and making a big step and competing in the front, and in the front is possible. I have never in my life felt optimistic about anything, Toto said. And he went on to say, it may sound a bit miserable, but it's protected me about managing my expectations and just pushing harder, because I think it's never good enough. That's why I sit here with a bittersweet feeling. We won P2, but we lost P1. Now, when asked if P2 in the Constructors' Championship was something to celebrate or move on about, he said, I think we need to take it on the chin, be humble about it and consider it a good day. Nevertheless, there's a Mount Everest to climb in order to catch Red Bull. I have no doubt McLaren is going to be in the mix next year, and maybe Aston Martin and others. We must leave no stone unturned, and which we will do in Brixworth and Brackley. Brixworth is where the Mercedes engine is made. And as tough as it is to be reminded that it's just P2, it's also a great car, great opportunity to come back and strive for the stars. Well, there we go. I mean, fingers crossed for Mercedes. Let's all hope it's work. Launch season next year is going to be a bit earlier, because instead of the season starting kind of like the second week of March or the third week of March, in some cases, technically it's the last week of April. I think practice is on the 29th. Down in Bahrain, so they don't have long, do they? Like 90 something days left ish at the time of recording this. Getting exciting, isn't it? So Norris spoke about McLaren, and obviously so has Norris. And this is from motorsport.com by Mac Hugh. Now, it says Norris is saying that McLaren is back on track for their 2024 challenge. Now, Norris firmly believes McLaren is on the right track for next year's car and has plenty more to improve. And McLaren, it missed its winter development targets and started the campaign very, very poorly. You could make an argument for one of the worst cars at the beginning of the year, and neither driver scoring a point in the first two races. And let's be fair, that first race, neither driver looked anything like they're going to score. Now, they led a 3-stage car upgrade phased in from the Austrian Grand Prix. The team emerged as the second fastest outfit behind Red Bull. And those gains, they enabled McLaren to leapfrog the early success story Aston Martin for fourth in the standings. And Norris believes there remains a great deal of scope for McLaren to take a step forward. Now, who would have believed at the beginning of the year, even second, third, four, races in before Austria, that McLaren would beat Aston Martin in that Constructors' Championship? I wouldn't have done. No way. But anyway, Norris said, for us to catch Mercedes, for us to catch Ferrari in terms of pace, we've been behind them for 2 years. They've not really taken any steps forward, and we've taken a massive step forward, and there's plenty more things that we know we can improve on. It's a good time for us. A few more bits of the puzzle we're to put together, he says, but we found the key pieces. We know what direction to go in, so I'm really proud of the whole team. And you've got to think at this point, the point he makes is from 2022 to 2023, Mercedes and Ferrari have kind of stood still in where they are compared to Red Bull and the other teams, whereas McLaren and Aston, to be fair, they're the two teams that have really, really excelled forward in their development, and they were absolutely mind-blowing and amazing. And a lot of people then have criticised Ferrari and Mercedes, particularly Mercedes, because I think when you look at the power units of both Aston Martin and McLaren, it is the same one. So the argument being, if they can make this big step forward, why can't Mercedes have made a big step forward? It's been now 2 years. But anyway, I digress. Norris went on to say, if we were in Bahrain now and I looked ahead, I was dreading the season already. So to come away with 7 podiums and all the great moments we've had was definitely not expected. The 2024 season will be the first time that McLaren's new in-house wind tunnel has had an impact on car design, and marquee signings. We've got Rob Marshall from Red Bull Engineering and Design and David Sanchez from Ferrari, who's part of the car concept and performance. And he potentially would have been a big hand in that 2022 Ferrari car. And they will officially start in their respective technical director roles. These hires and McLaren's major progress are going to be key to keeping Norris at McLaren. There's all these rumours that he's potentially going to go to Red Bull, and his contract does expire at the end of that 2025 season. However, even in 2024, we've seen cases where drivers have signed over a year in advance. For example, Alonso to McLaren, Montoya, for example, from Williams to McLaren as well. So the Briton is particularly enthused about the next 12 months at Woking, and he continued, I'm very excited. If we had just started the season how we were in the middle of 23 with the upgrades, we would beat P2 in the Constructors and P2 in the Drivers' Championship. He says, I know it doesn't always work like that, but we're on the right track. That's what I'm trying to say. We have some new hirings. The guys are coming in 2024. Maybe not everything that they can bring to us we would have in the car straight away, but some things we just already know now. He says we've learned already over the last 4 or 5, 6 months from the progress we've made. We've learned a lot. I'm excited because we're finally on that right track and we know which direction to push. I just want the season to start off well. If we could start well in Bahrain, I'll be a lot more excited. Completely agree. Let's hope, just like Mercedes, McLaren sort it out. Come on, I mean, if they make a bigger gap as they did this year at the beginning of the year, there's an argument made that could be as fast or faster than Red Bull. Obviously, we're almost talking in fantasy land there. However, when you think about it, there is going to be a ceiling. There is going to be a ceiling to these rules, and the gains you're going to make are going to be smaller and smaller. As we looked with the teams really catching up with Mercedes and Red Bull in 2021, for example. So our next story is Sergio Perez. Yes. Perez, he's been targeting qualifying gains in 2024 as Sunday form has been very strong, he says. So Sergio Perez said his race day form was, he used 2 varies here, very strong during the 23 season, and a key reason why he scored the runner-up spot. Okay, so the Red Bull RB19 dominated this season, but Perez consistently struggled with it in qualifying. He claimed 2 poles, but only made the front row of a Grand Prix on 2 other occasions. That's a crazy stat, isn't it? While teammate Max Verstappen was on pole 12 times, the average qualifying position of 3.2 was significantly better than Perez's 9.3. Perez said, I think the Sunday form has been very strong this year. That's the only reason we finished P2 in the championship, he said. After the season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, definitely Saturdays have been difficult this season, and it's something we've got to work on and make sure that we take gear and we improve for next year. He says that 2 days after climbing from 9th to 4th in Abu Dhabi, Perez was back on track for the post-season test, where with no new parts to the test, the focus was on develop specification tyres and improving his own driving. He said it's so much learning, so productive as well. It's good and important to put in the time, and it's been another productive day, especially coming out of a race. Everything is really fresh. Perez was 4th fastest in that test, just 0.322 seconds off the pace, but 0.9 faster than Formula E champion Jake Dennis, who also drove the Red Bull, basically driving Verstappen's car. He said it's very important to be able to have these sorts of days together with the team, because we got some homework to hone, that we are able to work and be productive. It's been dominant for Red Bull, yes, he said, but it's been quite tough for me. Absolutely has, Perez. So it is what it is. I'm sure we're going to have a great car again next year. Hopefully a bit nicer on the balance side, and hopefully we can keep this domination going as a team. Now, Perez valued the test day, particularly because of the lack of in-season testing F1 now has. Having the same opportunity early in the season could have made his championship a lot different, he believes. And he said, obviously these days you don't have any testing, and even in the testing you are so restricted with the things you can play on the car and the time, in terms of time and tyres. But overall, I'm grateful for the difficult season. I had it because it taught me a lot about the car, about the philosophy in Red Bull, understanding a lot more of the concepts, and I really hope this will pay off for next year. I mean, the only thing I'm going to comment on, is he says he had a very, very strong form in the race. Yes, he did have a very, very strong form in the race, but that's because the guy completely, he was in a completely qualified badly. I mean, when you're in the best car and you qualify outside the top 10, you're going to look good in the races. And there was many a time where Perez, was up for man of the race simply because he came through the field in a car that is sometimes, for a second faster than any other car, and 6-7 tenths faster, but potentially than even the second best car at races. So I'm not saying it's frustrating, but it's a bit like, you're blowing your own horn there, but you cause your own problems in a way by qualifying badly. That is something he needs to sort out. Now, the frustrating thing with Perez is we know he has shown on occasion that he can win the races. If you look at Saudi Arabia, when Max Verstappen basically came up behind Perez, Perez was as fast as Max, and Max could not get anywhere near. He just couldn't get anywhere near Perez in terms of going for a move. It was one of Perez's brilliant victories and made us think, we're going to have a fight for the championship. And then came Miami, and it completely destroyed Perez, didn't it? I think he had such good. I mean, Max was qualifying quite far back, and Perez, he led the race, and Max just passed him like it was absolutely nothing, like it was in any other car other than a Red Bull. It was just so easy for him. So, I mean, there we go. But anyway, I digress. Again, next up, can Red Bull be caught? And that's kind of what we're talking about. And this is also what F1's CEO, Stefano Domenicali, thinks. And he's confident the rivals will tackle a key area where Red Bull are really, really superior, let's say. Now, in their second year since the F1, this is from racefans.net, overhauled its technical regulations in the hope of closer racing, Red Bull and Max Verstappen achieved unprecedented levels of dominance, as we know. Now, Domenicali said, I would say congratulations to Max. He has set something impressive in terms of maturity, in terms of... Oh, we've lost it. In terms of maturity, in terms of standards to Red Bull. However, he said, the season proved it's possible for their rivals to close on them. And he says, to the ones that were saying with the budget cap, you cannot develop the car, I would say McLaren proved this is not right. McLaren struggled to escape Q1 in the opening races, but climbed to fourth in the championship. Now, although Red Bull won 21 out of the 22 races, they were beaten to pole position 8 times, as their RB19 was typically more competitive in race than qualifying. And he expects their rivals to make progress. He says, you see on Saturday in qualifying, 20 cars were within a second. So in qualifying, they were very close. Of course, race pace is different. And I think this will be the major thing that we're going to see next year. He says he's optimistic that the fight between the leading teams will be closer next year. I think so, he said. Even if, as always, I'm a guy that doesn't like to speak because there's always a lot of people who are speaking and are then being contradicted. But I'm sure that's the aim of the teams, to try and show the level of engineering, the level of their capacity and capability to improve. Now, despite the one-sided nature of competition, Domenicali said, F1 is continuing to grow in popularity. The awareness of F1 and the growth of our sport is really magic. And he says, what is our focus is to make sure that people are avid fans like us can really believe in the sport, but also people that are not really avid fans, but they love what we are building up, can be connected to us. And then it's our duty to develop the culture of F1. This is really beautiful, the challenge we have. Okay, that's just PR speak at the end. But he's hopeful. Having said that, playing devil's advocate, this is the CEO of F1. He wants people to have eyes on the product. So, of course, he's going to be optimistic for an exciting 2024. And I think we need to be optimistic for an exciting 2024, only to be disappointed. No, hopefully not disappointed come lights out and away we go from Crufty in Bahrain. It would just be nice to go into a weekend and not be 100% sure who's going to win the race. Not asking for much, are we? But there we go. So, anyway, if you're still watching, if you still like it, please like and subscribe to us at the Hot Lap. We'd really appreciate that. That would be absolutely fantastic. Anyone that comments, I try and answer it as quick as I can. Thank you so much. It means so much to me. Even if you disagree with some of the things we say here, I say here, I'm well up for a debate. Hey, even if you want to come on the show in one way or another, let's have a chat about it. That would be awesome. liking and subscribing. Yep, it's we're going up. So thank you so much. It does mean a lot. It's worth almost putting in the effort to talk to you guys. So we will be back, obviously, throughout the off season, going in to the pre-season, the testing. It's an exciting time. This will be the first time we've done it because we kind of started halfway through the season in F1 on here on the Hot Lap. So this has been the Hot Lap. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.